The NEC is meeting virtually this weekend. Reporter Govan Whittles is speaking with Pule Mabe, the party's national spokesperson, about this. He joins us now live. Govan, I assume that top of the agenda would probably be the Zondo Commission report. A lot of ANC NEC members and other members of the ANC have been mentioned in this report.
They have indeed, and exactly how the ANC will approach the members being implicated in the Zondo report is definitely going to be one of the tough discussion points, especially since those that have been implicated, such as Minister Gwede Mantashe, Deputy Minister Thabang Makwetla, and also Nomvula Mokonyane, former minister and senior leader in the ANC, will have to answer questions about that. But there are a number of other items which are equally important, and the ANC's status or the state of the organization's provincial structures, as well as what's going to happen with renewal and the Secretary General's office. Let's talk about some of these with Pule Mabe. He's the spokesperson for the African National Congress. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Mabe. Let's begin with the conferences. How many of them are still outstanding?
Afternoon, Gavin. In terms of provincial conferences, we've got about 8 of them that are outstanding. There are those that are due. Mpumalanga is sitting next week. Gauteng work is already going on. They are preparing for their BGMs are ongoing for the provincial conference. Eastern Cape, same story. KwaZulu-Natal as well. The Northwest is also preparing for conference. Limpopo, the Western Cape. The only province that has actually held their own conference is the Northern Cape up to so far. I think we've got about 33. I speak under correction, but about 33 regional conferences that are due. Some have been sitting. You know, because what happens that in preparation of provincial conferences, you will have provincial conferences sitting. You have seen most in the Eastern Cape, in Limpopo, in Mpumalanga, and in all other parts of the country, in Northern Cape, regional conferences have been sitting.
But there are also a number of the ANC's organizations which are struggling with their preparations towards these conferences. The provincial elective committee in Mpumalanga and the Eastern Cape have been disbanded. The Youth League still needs to hold its conference. The ANC Women's League is to decide its fate. The NEC meeting will decide its fate this weekend on whether it should be disbanded. So it does look like the ANC's organizations and structures are struggling. Will you be able to hold these conferences, and by when do you think you will be able to hold this?
Well, Gavin, it's unfortunate that you stopped me while I was still clarifying you. I don't know where you get the issue of struggle. We are having a National Working Committee meeting now. We are receiving a detailed report from organizing. This report begins to tell us a story of how many of our branches have set BGMs. You'd recall the only reason why structures of the ANC would not have set was because of COVID conditions. The social and political space was quite closed. They couldn't have set. The ANC commandeers over 4,000 branches in the country. And most of those branches, I can tell you and confirm to your viewers that they are really sitting their BGMs when they're expected to. And they are doing this with the new membership system, which was a real test of the ability of this leadership to be able to deliver what we committed to when we left that seminal occasion of the 54th National Conference in 2017. So conferences will sit. We will receive the report on the ANC Youth League, their state of readiness and all of that, as well as the ANC Women's League. There is a 3-member task team that was to engage with issues around the conference of the ANC Women's League, their state of health and all of that. We'll also get a report on the ANC Veterans League. So there's a lot of political activities, political and organizational activities that are taking place on the ground. You have also seen senior leaders.
I'd just like to come in there before we run out of time. What will the ANC's NEC's discussion on a framework to implement the recommendations or to look at the implications of the Zondo report look like, and what kind of framework are you looking towards?
Well, there is already a task team established that is led by Comrade Jeff Radebe. It has already done some initial work and has shared that work with the National Working Committee. The National Working Committee, having processed that, it takes it to the National Executive Committee for further processing and finality, so that it guides the ANC's response to the recommendations of the Commission on State Capture.
Will the ministers and deputy ministers and other senior ANC leaders who are implicated be asked to step aside?
Step aside on what? Maybe step aside from when the report is presented, or step aside from their positions?
Step aside after being implicated in the report of the Zondo Commission.
Well, Govan, I don't know how many times we have to repeat ourselves. The ANC has outlined a framework that guides conditions under which a member may be asked to step aside. This really and largely relate to when a person has been criminally charged and is now indicted to appear in a court of law. So now these comrades that are mentioned in the reports, some of them, including our national chair, have already spoken to the steps that they are taking, including a judicial review and all of that.
So does that mean now that the ANC Women's League President, Batabile Dlamini, has been found guilty in a court of law, she will step aside?
Well, these are internal organizational matters. The issue is before the national officials. Once they've processed that matter, they will be able to brief us. You know, the ANC is not a jiga organization. We've got processes in the organization.
There's also reports of a recommendation that Gwen Ramakgopa take up the Secretary General's position and run the office in preparation for the national conference. Are you able to confirm that, or are you able to at the least confirm that this meeting will arrive with a decision or an appointment to the Secretary General's office?
Well, I'm able to clarify the eNCA and its viewers. What we have said Comrade Gwen will do is that she will then become a coordinator to reinforce the work of the SGO, owing to the ill health of our DSG, who would have now taken the role of acting Secretary General there. And you know, she has not been of good health. We have been wishing her well and hope that she'll be able to bounce back much stronger. So what Comrade Gwen will be doing is to really coordinate those activities, because Treasurer General, as the overseer now of the work of the SGO in the absence of the DSG, also has got work that he must deal with that relates to his own office, the office he runs, which is raising money, making sure that the financial state of the ANC is in good shape and all of that. So the TG will still be responsible in the absence of the DSG to sign off credentials and make sure that the political management committee is able to sit here at head office level to coordinate the political work and steer and lead the political work of the African National Congress. But because there were other responsibilities that needed to be fulfilled, including sitting in your National Dispute Resolution Committee, sitting in the Deployment Committee, which is the work that the DSG would have done. Now, it's not possible for the TG to cut herself into 2 or 3 pieces. So we have got, because we are such a bigger network, we've got over, elected members of the ANC, outside officials are 80, then you have got 6 officials. So you then come and take from amongst elected members of the National Executive Committee. With Comrade Gwen, she also serves in the National Working Committee of the ANC, which oversees the day-to-day running of organization. Then with that kind of level of coordination, you make sure that we are not found short on other tasks that the SGO is having to perform.
All right. Lastly, then, Mr. Mabe, just to check, has the ANC paid its salaries this month, or will it pay the salaries of its staff?
Since you don't work for the ANC, you are not even aware of when we get paid. So the day on which our salaries are paid hasn't arrived. It looks like you guys at eNCA are paid on the 15th. So we have not really arrived at the date when salaries must be paid. I mean, March has not even reached its end.
So will you pay salaries this month?
Well, that is an issue that we deal with. Normally, we don't always come and make big announcement on when we pay salaries. I mean, it was only because we had situations in the movement. But ordinarily, I don't know of any organization, institution of state, that, including yourselves, newsrooms, that every month go and announce when they are going to pay salaries.
Well,
that's why pay slips are carbonated. Salary payments are private.
We are interested in the ANC's affairs. As
we know that. We take that.
But we are out of time. Thank you so much for your time, Mr. Pule Mabe, is the spokesperson for the African National Congress, ahead of an NEC meeting that has a lot of important items to discuss and where a number of important decisions will be made. It's back to you for now.
All right, Govan Whittles at Luthuli House with Pule Mabe, who is always so touched to talk about the salaries of ANC employees.